Welcome to NFL Daily, where we're always scrambling for a last-minute touchdown. That could be Josh Allen, it could be Geno Smith, it could be anyone. It could be me here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio for your Week 11 recap alongside Patrick Claybon. Nick Shook joining us from Cleveland, where the undefeated Cavaliers roam. And I thought this was a fantastic Sunday of games. We had some headliners, but maybe that's just because my agendas were fulfilled, because you seemed more salty, Patrick, when I came into the studio today.
Yeah, all things Gregg, vibes up. And even
you can't let one Ravens loss just ruin your whole day.
It wasn't just that, Gregg.
Okay.
I picked a game that I did not want to happen. I picked the thing that I did not want to happen. And I lose both ends of that. We'll talk about that coming up.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. And Nick, yes, your NBA team's doing great. NFL team, not so much. But you can just kind of turn off those emotions and now just enjoy the spectacle. Because you actually were the one that was assigned to Ravens Steelers early. Rare case where Patrick doesn't get that big-time game.
Yeah, it was a game that I wish was played in primetime just because of the matchup. But judging by the final score and the result and how ugly it was at times, I think it was deserving the 1 p.m. slot.
Okay, so put a pin in that one. It's part of the big block that we're starting the show with. We always start with the best games, and there's no other game to start with than Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, Bills and Chiefs in Orchard Park.
All right, here we go. Game on the line here with the Bills up 2 and 2:27 left. It's a 4th and 2. Here's some late motion. Fakes the throw. Allen going to step up in the pocket. Now he's going to take it and run, and he's got the first down and more. 10, 5, and muscles his way into the end zone for an unbelievable 26-yard touchdown run. Are you kidding me?
We're not kidding you, Chris Brown of WGR. One of the moments of the season, no doubt. Josh Allen comes back to pass. They got a mesh concept. He wasn't planning to run, but he decides to run, and he's bouncing off defenders into the end zone. The Bills get the victory, 30-21 over the Chiefs. This is a rivalry that always delivers. And on Sunday, the Bills delivered the Chiefs their first loss of the entire season. Bills got a chance here to be the 1 seed in the AFC. They are flying right now at 9-2, and the Chiefs, they were bound to lose eventually. I guess you never know. They are at 9-1, and yes, I think that play told us so much about this rivalry, about where these two teams are at in 2024, because Sean McDermott has evolved. In the past, 4th down, 2:27 to go. I don't know if Sean McDermott is going for it in that situation. And it's one thing we've talked about on this show from the very beginning of the season. They've been extremely aggressive on 4th down. And one of the reasons I was so impressed that he went for it in this case is that they failed in a somewhat similar spot in the first half of this game where, in theory, they could have taken points. Meanwhile, they don't really have a good kicker. That's probably informing the decision right there. But he knows you need touchdowns, Patrick, to beat the champs. And he let his best player decide the game, and Josh Allen decided it.
Yeah, 4th and 2 in a high leverage situation. And as you mentioned, the Bills run mesh. They run mesh. They let their generationally talented quarterback in a high leverage play just run something where it's not confusing. Again, we'll talk about another team that did not necessarily do that in a high leverage situation with the game on the line. Not salty at all, but this is the first time. It's been 44 games, Gregg, since the team has scored 30 points in the regular season against the Kansas City Chiefs. That goes all the way back to week 4 of 2022, and they get it with those, not to say they're relatively simple concepts, but a lot of screens to Khalil Shakir. We saw the Chiefs defense miss more tackles today than I've seen them miss in a very long time. Khalil Shakir was 7 yards after catch. Curtis Samuel was 6 yards after catch. These are average on every single reception. I didn't know if the skill position players with the Bills, with all the injuries, were going to be able to make this a game. They played spectacularly after catch.
They were awesome. Keon Coleman does not play in this game. Dalton Kincaid does not play in this game. And sometimes it is just about your players showing up and playing a bit above where we've seen him. Amari Cooper hasn't been on this team for long. You look and he only has 2 for 55, but they were both really difficult catches at massive points in the game. Cooper leads them to an early touchdown. His other catch was also fantastic. Curtis Samuel has been in mothballs most of the season, made an unreal play on the very first drive of the game that helped lead to a touchdown. That was on a 3rd and 9 where he got, again, free from some Chiefs defenders, playing above his skis. He gets a huge touchdown in the 4th quarter. And yes, this Bills team ultimately beat a Chiefs squad, Nick, that I didn't think got a ton of pressure on Josh Allen, that if you really break it down, it was a close game, but if you really break down the line of scrimmage, I thought the Bills won the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Their defense and their offensive line both won. They're a little tougher, I think, than maybe previous Bills teams.
It's weird because this rivalry has kind of evolved, much like Sean McDermott has evolved. In previous years, we would think about shootouts. We would think about, explosive plays, tons of points on the board. We saw that in the playoffs. We saw that when they met either in the regular season or the postseason. It's been back and forth affairs. This was not like that. Both these teams have changed. The Chiefs' offensive line is a huge concern for me, which is part of why the Bills found success up front. But Gregg Rousseau's having a great year. He causes a pressure that results in a Von Miller sack. The Chiefs have to punt the ball. Whereas, meanwhile, the Bills don't have the same explosive offense, but they still have Josh Allen. And so it's almost like the scales have kind of tipped toward even again because both these teams look different. And yet we still get a total of 51 points between these two teams.
Right.
And the Bills still almost melted down in the 4th quarter before Josh Allen essentially salted this one away with that touchdown run.
Right, because the defense has made plays in this game. Patrick Mahomes starts the game with an interception where he panics a little bit, but it was because of a really quick pressure. Josh Allen throws an interception on a 4th down early in this game. That was the 4th down decision I was referring to. Great play by Chamari Connor. There were segments in this game in the middle where the Bills punted a couple times in a row. The Chiefs punted a couple times in a row in the 3rd quarter. So that's why I just love this matchup, because it's got a little bit of everything. But I like how you mentioned those long drives at the end. That's the Chiefs' style, and that's what the Bills did to Kansas City. They showed that they can win in this style. James Cook did not have a great game. They did not run the ball well, but they did get it done in the red zone, and he broke some tackles, and they were able to kind of play like the Chiefs offense and pick you apart. And they will go on 2 drives late in the game, a 10-play, 61-yard drive where they take up 6 minutes of the clock, and then that final one right after Patrick Mahomes makes it 23-21, Patrick. Like, you're just thinking – it was almost like Mahomes needed to be down 9 points in the 4th quarter just to feel alive again. You know what I mean? Like, because that next drive that he had, that was like the best drive I've seen the Chiefs offense have all season. Like, he's making next level type throws. He's on the run. They move fast for once, and they get that touchdown, and you think, oh, here they come. But the Bills just kind of squeeze the life out of it. A huge play by Khalil Shakir on a 3rd and 9, whether it's passing or rushing. Josh Allen is right there with Lamar as the best quarterback in the league, and he proved it in the biggest of spots today.
And also the Bills' offensive line, they lose Deion Dawkins for a couple of plays. They're late. We'll have to check and see long-term if that's a particular issue. But you mentioned that 3rd and 9 to Khalil Shakir. He takes a huge shot on that play from Cook, like on his back hip, is able to get the first down there. Just so many moments where you look and see the Bills make plays like that. And on the other side, Nuke Hopkins had a ball kind of roll out late. Kansas City not able to get a couple of conversions in a game where this might have been the best Xavier Worthy game that they've had in several weeks. And you kind of wondered, Kareem Hunt had his longest run of the season as well. The plays that Kansas City has had to win the game were there. It's just the defense that they can normally count on to shut out opponents. Couldn't get off the field in key moments.
Yeah, it's a good call on Worthy. They really built the game plan around him early, although he always has that one play, the Xavier Worthy, like, mental boner play. And that was he blew what would have been about a 40-yard catch on a nice throw by Mahomes, not getting his feet in bounds, which has happened so many times. But they still scored enough. I mean, they get a couple touchdowns there from Noah Gray. I thought it was really important, just looking at the next-gen stats, Nick, 37% pressure rate by the Bills, despite barely blitzing, which is that I think that's been the key to them. So it was Oliver, it was Rousseau, it was Miller, it was Epinesa, it was everyone. Meanwhile, for once, Spagnuolo didn't dial it up enough. They were blitzing plenty, but they weren't really getting to Allen. There were segments of this game where Allen was missing open receivers, like not seeing him, and I give Spagnuolo credit for that. So I think it was just a good game between two really good teams. But at the end of the game, like the winning play comes off a blitz. The touchdown to Samuel comes off a blitz. Let's actually listen to that.
Allen in the shotgun. Shakir in motion right to left. Here's the snap. Blitz coming. Allen has to throw it. Wide open. It's Samuel scampering to the end zone, and he's in for the touchdown. Well, welcome to the end zone, Curtis Samuel. A 12-yard touchdown reception, his first as a Buffalo Bill.
Welcome to the 2024 season, Curtis Samuel. I was waiting for you. I've always believed in you. You arrive in Buffalo, and I think, wow, this is the place to unlock him. And he's been a net negative all season. They actually tried to get him going last week. I thought it was pointed. I thought they're thinking, we need this guy at some point, and they're feeding him targets early in that game against the Colts. It didn't really work, actually. They threw him the ball 8 times for 35 yards, but maybe it paid off a week later because he made a number of really good plays. Look, this isn't a devastating loss for the Chiefs. You're bound to lose eventually. They get to their bye, or rather the Bills get to the Chiefs get to their bye, and their schedule is still pretty favorable coming up. I'm not too worried. The Bills have a really interesting schedule coming up for just when you're thinking about potential MVP. They actually do have their bye, so they're going to feel good coming into it. And then they have the 49ers, at the Rams, and at the Lions. All these high leverage spots for everyone to kind of see Josh Allen on national TV. And if he can get through that well, then he's got 3 cupcakes to finish out the season, 2 Patriots games and a Jets game. So the Bills in good shape here. Let's listen to Josh Allen, trying to keep it in perspective, because, yes, this has been a rivalry. The Bills have actually won 4 straight games against the Chiefs in the regular season, but it's the playoff games that everyone remembers.
Means we got to 9 wins. I know it's from perception, outside perception, it's a really big game, and what it means for both fan bases and the league. We're in week 11. We're 9-2. Last time I checked, 9 wins probably doesn't get you in the playoffs. So, going into this bye week, you get to enjoy ourselves a little bit, but coming back ready, a hungry team and just trying to go 1-0.
Yeah, he has been through this before. He knows how long this season is, how difficult it will be to slay the dragon. But this was a good start. Going from one great AFC rivalry to another, let's go to Pittsburgh.
Lamar Jackson in the shotgun. 3 receivers bunched tightly to the left. Snap. Lamar moving out to the left. Lamar being strung out, and Lamar flings it backhand incomplete, and the Steelers defense has come up with a stop.
I don't know what Lamar was doing there. Just running, it seemed like, blindly down the line of scrimmage. I know he had somebody leaking through in the back, and I don't even see it.
That was Rob King and Craig Wolfley of WDVE in Pittsburgh. Yes, that 2-point conversion was the difference in an 18-16 victory by the Steelers. Najee Harris ends up icing the game a handful of plays later after some misadventures from Justin Fields where he slides too early. Glad that didn't end up being the difference in this game. But, man, Patrick, you could pick a lot of differences in this game. Where do you want to start? How about that play?
Yeah, well, again, we talked about this, and I'm glad, Shook, I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this game, because I'm going to be thinking about that play where it seems like the Baltimore Ravens, both sides of the offensive line and all the receivers and Lamar Jackson are all running different plays. 3 plays appear to be run. They come out. Mike Tomlin gives the Greg Popovich timeout, and shout out to Coach Pop. Hope he's doing better recovering from the stroke there. But he sees what the Ravens are going to run.
Yes.
And so Monken has to scrap the play that they were initially running, and then it's an absolute galaxy brain panic on the biggest play of the game where I legitimately, I'm looking for post-game sound to find out what the hope was here, because there was nothing there.
There was nothing. It was extremely confusing, and everything Tomlin does this year just turns to gold, because what's the worst case scenario? I mean, I guess you don't want to run the same play that you were planning to run the first time around because they started running it, but
they should have.
They should have is my answer, Nick.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Charles Davis in the broadcast goes, I think that looked like jump pass. And obviously, if you give that away, you're not going to come back and run it again, because that's an element of surprise play. It looked like it was blocked right up front, and it just completely crumbled once they got to the edge. I'm not going to make too much of a deal out of one play, because, Patrick, you'll be on board with me on this. The Ravens played one of their worst games of the season today.
Yes.
And a lot of that is due to the Steelers defense for complicating the picture. They were bracketing Zay Flowers often. They were making it hard for Lamar Jackson to throw the ball until that final touchdown drive there. He had only completed 2 passes to receivers all day. Everything they did offensively was a struggle, but they also got completely in their own way. They had 12 accepted penalties against them. They fumble away possession on Derrick Henry's second carry of the game, and they go 4 for 11 on third down, and it was even worse earlier in the game. They just look like a disjointed operation all day. This is not the Ravens offense that we knew them to be prior. And a lot of that credit is due to the Steelers defense, but this was a winnable game. Justin Tucker misses 2 field goals in the first half, shooting themselves in the foot time and time again. They got to be on that plane kicking themselves all the way back to Baltimore, because this was a game they very much could have won, and now they've lost it. They're a game and a half behind the Steelers. And I'll tell you what, though, it's setting up for a real nice rematch later this season.
Yes, it is. That's on Christmas Day. The Steelers have won 7 out of 8 in this matchup between Tomlin and John Harbaugh. After the game, Cam Wolf of NFL Network, who's going to be with us in studio, by the way, on a preview show in about 3 weeks. So look forward to that, Patrick. That'll be exciting. He said Tomlin was going around the locker room and just going up to players and saying, "Welcome to the rivalry." Welcome. I like that. I like when the coaches lean into an actual rivalry. What is it you think the Steelers do that just has been Ravens kryptonite, whether it's Lamar on the field or not? It's been very effective, whatever they do.
Well, I mean, we saw it in the Ravens win against the Cincinnati Bengals, where Lamar is rolling to his right. It's an absolute hopeless play. Half of the planet is telling him to throw the ball away. He makes a move, tucks it, eventually gets down inside the 2-yard line. It's very difficult for Lamar to make those plays with T.J. Watt on the field. He's just never been able to, and so many times we see him stiff arm the edge guy, get away, spin away from the edge guy. It feels like he's 0 for lifetime in getting away from T.J. Watt. And then on the other side, like last year's loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers was, again, they dropped everything last week. At least the Steelers were knocking the ball down this time. Yeah. A lot of Lamar's passes got batted at the line of scrimmage, but just mistakes, just being mistakes. I don't know if Mike Tomlin has the magical juju to just make things go horribly wrong for Baltimore, but in these last couple of games, it has been the Ravens. I mean, all credit being sent out. George Pickens made a great play down the sideline.
Yep.
As Shook said, the Ravens lost this.
Yeah, I want to hear what you think about what the Steelers offense and defense did well, Shook, but let's actually listen, because I think it's apropos right now to hear Lamar Jackson talking about the loss.
Ever since last year, I believe, going back to the AFC Championship game, we killed ourselves. Chiefs game, the opener, killed ourselves. Raiders, we killed ourselves. And today, same thing. It's just like we can't be beating ourselves in these type of games. We got to find a way to fix that. On.
Yeah, he's right. They really do feel like they beat themselves. Justin Tucker missed 2 kicks, so out of 4 losses this year, all of which are by 1 score. Justin Tucker has played a huge role in 3 of those 4 losses. Lamar finishes 2 for 10 under pressure for 27 yards, was hit a number of times by the Steelers defense. But Nick, let's give the Steelers credit here. Now on top of this division by a game and a half. What did they do offensively, defensively that you think was special to be able to keep winning in this rivalry?
Yeah, I'm actually really glad Lamar pointed that out, because that was the initial thought I had while that game was going on. I was like, this looks a lot like the AFC title game from last year, offensively. And I think that's a big product of what the Steelers defense did. Lamar could not get loose as a scrambler. I mean, he found extending plays to be very difficult, and he ended up sailing passes over guys' heads. And again, it's because of the Pittsburgh defense. So what did Pittsburgh do well? Well, let's talk about offensively, because they weren't much better offensively. But what they did do is convert all their field goal attempts. Chris Boswell hit 6 of them. That's the most converted in Acrisure Stadium since it was built. It's also the most since Gary Anderson hit 6 in a game at Three Rivers Stadium back in 1988.
There it is.
Wow.
Research fact right there in Pittsburgh. But no, I mean, it was up and down for the Steelers. Russell Wilson, this is a classic Russell Wilson game for him, because we talk about, oh, he's exceeded expectation, and he has. But play by play, he's still very up and down. He was very up and down today. Where he was good was in the short passing game. He was extremely excellent at just taking what the defense gave him. He was perfect. He was 20 of 24 on passes under 10 air yards today for 126. So 126 of his 205 yards came on passes under 10 air yards. And then that big completion that Patrick referenced to George Pickens, which set up, surprise, another field goal, but at least got them deep in Ravens territory. So he made the big plays here and there, very, very small amounts, and he just kept them steady and consistent. And they just kind of won this war of attrition by staying ahead and playing well enough defense to deny the Ravens of their opportunities. And that's the AFC North, and that is Steelers-Ravens in a nutshell. I texted a friend who's a Steelers fan, and I said, hey, I think today's going to end 17-16, and that's when it was 3-0. It finishes
Nailed it.
18-16. It just looked like that game.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this division's not over. I do think we can say a few things about the 2024 Ravens right now. They're not going to be the 1 seed. We know that. And they're not missing the playoffs. So they're at 7-4 in the way the AFC is and how good they are. So they're going to be somewhere in between. They're going to try to go win this division. Not over yet when you look at the Steelers' schedule, although Steelers do get the Browns 2 out of the next 3 weeks. So at least in the relatively short term, it's not brutal. They can win this division. They're going to be, somewhere between the 2 and the 4 seed, most likely somewhere between the 3 and the 5 seed. And it's a decision whether they can go win the division or not. The Steelers, were in the bottom 10th percentile in terms of EPA per play and success rate on this game. So their offense did struggle. Russell Wilson had that ghastly interception in the red zone, one of the worst plays of the year, right? I mean, considering the situation that you just can't make that play late in the game. The running game was okay. But it's really the Ravens defense, which I guess had a better game. And yet at the very end, I know Kyle Hamilton caught your eye, Patrick.
Yeah, he did, because Justin Fields comes into the game to run the ball. The Steelers are not going to throw the ball. And Kyle Hamilton is hopping on one leg before that play. He gets immense depth. It's 2nd and 9. He gets crazy depth just because he can't move. So he's just back there just for moral support. Roquan Smith was out of the game. I don't know if it was a helmet communication issue where they couldn't take Kyle Hamilton off the field. Either way, he stays in the game on the next play because Justin Fields slides down, despite the fact that Kyle was not going to do anything to contact him on that play. And
you got to know the rules, Justin Fields, by the way. Someone's got to tell him the rules.
He slides short. The spot is where you initiate the slide. And then, so on 3rd and 1, Kyle Hamilton stays in the game. Again, he's on one leg, and they can do nothing to stop Najee. He gets the first down in ball game. But just we're going to have to check on Roquan's status. Kyle Hamilton's already playing on one leg, it seems like. Those two, without those two, I don't know. The defense played better today, but it's a rough
Roquan's
sitch.
a hamstring too, so that's concerning because you know how hamstrings can be, and that's the key part of their defense right there. So that's concerning for sure.
That is a big one to watch. Yeah, Lamar Jackson's numbers against the Steelers in his last 5 starts: 5 touchdowns, 11 turnovers, and 21 sacks taken. Hard to believe. Van Jefferson played most of this game at wide receiver. Mike Williams didn't get any runs. Van Jefferson with a big fat offer. I'd like to see a little more Mike Williams at some point.
In a drop.
Yeah, he had a drop as well.
But these on his only target, I believe. These are champagne problems. The Steelers are rolling. They're a big part of this season. They're going to the playoffs too. We'll see where they are in seed. Somewhere, I would guess, between 3 and 6 is a fun division, and it feels like it's just getting started. Let's head to the only division that's better. Yes, the NFC North.
Santos for the game. Here's the snap. Placement made. The kick is blocked. It is blocked. It is blocked. And the Packers have won. Beautiful. It is beautiful. It comes up short, and the Packers have won 11 straight over the Bears, 20-19. Oh my goodness! What a finish! Wow.
Wow, Wayne Larrivee and Larry McCarron for WRNW. Yeah, some franchises, they just seem blessed. I mean, thinking about the Chiefs last week on that blocked field goal, thinking about the Packers this week on that blocked field goal. But that was a great block. And special teams matters. Rich Bisaccia matters. And the Bears, man, some franchises just seem snake-bitten, and they have been since about the 1980s. This could have been such a nice, soul-satisfying win for Caleb Williams and a Bears squad that has just been going through it. Caleb Williams gets them in position. Maybe Matt Eberflus didn't get them close enough in position. I would argue that was a mistake.
To be had.
Yes. Packers win this game 20-19. Patrick, I am stunned by how well the Bears hung in this game and probably deserved to win this game, but I didn't watch it as closely. Explain to me how they did that.
Well, they did so, and we'll start with the good news, of course, before Carl Brooks kind of ruins the day of all Bears fans. A nice game for Thomas Brown. Like, congratulations, the offensive coordinator change worked out. Got to see the playmaking ability of Caleb Williams. Scored on 4 of their first 5 possessions, did the Bears. They also converted 56% of their third down plays, if you want to check my math. It's 9 of 16 there. And I think one of the most consequential drives for them, because the Packers late go for it on 4th and goal. They roll Jordan Love out. It's hopeless in the end zone, so he tries to run for it. They get the turnover on downs. They start that possession on the 2-yard line, and then they have a 12-play drive. The problem is it's only 49 yards, but they at least flip field position. They give the ball back to the Packers. Jordan Love hits Christian Watson on a 60-yard play. They review it. It looks close, like he almost has that ball hit the ground. But they go in, they score, and then we heard the results of that final drive there. The only Bears victories are moral ones.
Ugh.
As the offense had a low bar to clear, but they definitely cleared it today, Greg.
You know, Caleb Williams in this game early on, he's running around. He ends up with 70 yards on the ground, which is that's fantastic. And I see as that last drive is going, the Roma Dunze catch on the sideline. Great back shoulder throw. That was 4th down, right?
Yep.
Great catch by the 2 rookies, and you do feel like, oh, this is the tide turning. Let's have that conversation about not going far enough. The Bears have the ball with a timeout, which, by the way, the Packers took at 35 seconds. Okay. We've just been through this so many times. The ball's at the 30-yard line. Okay, so at that point, it's, a 47-yard field goal.
Mm-hmm.
They've got... It was probably more than 40 seconds when they could have taken that timeout. The Packers took it at 35. You have a timeout. You have a timeout left, but you don't want to use it there. Okay, but the Packers, they used it. They decided to save you a little bit. At that point, you have your timeout, and you have 35 seconds left. Why not try to get closer to make it easier? Like, why not? I know bad things can happen. Don't live in your fears.
I will play devil's advocate here. Because that drive started with Caleb Williams taking sacks on 1st and 2nd down.
Okay.
And so it was one of those things where they had it became 3rd and 18, right? He gets the pass to Odunze, and then they have to convert on that 4th down that you mentioned, where perhaps memory of that and seeing Caleb getting sacked all the times that he's getting sacked this season, they don't want to go from a 47-yard field goal to a 58-yard field goal. It's one of those things where, of course, it could be closer, but considering the way things have gone for Chicago, it's, you got to protect the field goal. We've seen it league-wide. You haven't been able to protect the field goal.
Is this Packers team any good, by the way, Shook? They're 7-3. Like, they are good because their coach is good, and I believe their quarterback is good, and I think their offensive talent and their scheme is good, and their offensive line is good. So they are good. But they are one of the teams in the NFL where I just don't feel like I know much about them. They're just sort of like, what's going on here? They feel a little lucky to be 7-3, but they're also so talented that it's like, okay, I'm fine with them being 7-3.
Every time I think about them or am asked about them, I come back to the same feeling, which is that I am being tested on a book that I never finished for summer reading, but I read the Cliff Notes. Like, I know parts about them, but their quarterback's been hurt on 2 separate occasions, and they've played in some inclement weather situations, and they lost the time of possession battle in this game by nearly 13 minutes today. So how much of a sample size did you get? Jordan Love threw 17 passes. He threw a pick that was really ugly that would have led to a touchdown that would have flipped the scales of this game early and probably put the Bears in a position where they were pressing, and instead they had the benefit of time. They had the benefit of time and patience and a new start with Thomas Brown at OC, and they were so close to winning that game. And it's just like the Broncos last week. They played well enough to win, and they didn't win. And you know what? Shout out to Carl Brooks from none other than Bowling Green State University, Mid-American Conference guy, getting that blocked field goal. I always love it when a MAC guy changes a game.
Well, finally, someone from that defensive line does something. That is a little part of my frustration. I think it's the scheme, because it's all the same players as a year ago, and their pressure numbers are just so down, and their overall team numbers aren't terrible. So I don't know what it is. It kind of speaks to what I'm talking about with this is just a team I'm not sure what to do with. Like, it's a game where, like, Dobbs, doesn't do anything, but then Watson pops up for that big play. I mean, that was a fantastic play, and I do give them credit. Love threw that interception earlier in a big spot, and they needed a touchdown to go win a division game, and they got the touchdown. Hell, let's listen to the Jordan Love go-ahead rushing touchdown.
Love to the line of scrimmage. Kraft motions to the right. Ball to the right hash mark. Just inside the 1. Quarterback keeper Jordan Love pushed forward to the end zone for the touchdown. And the Packers take the lead. 20-19.
Yeah, they haven't beaten the Packers since 2018. What were you doing in like the fall of 2018, Patrick Claybon? You were here.
I think in the 2018 season, I got put on the bench in one of those years. There were some decision-making changes.
Oh no, I should have brought this up.
No, it's fine. And your boy was chilling on Sundays. But hey, we're still here.
Now he's so busy. He only does NFL Daily when it's his second show of the day. Like he always has live programming before doing this. So you have so many jobs.
But hey, that's 2,163 days. If you're counting on your fingers, which the Bears are, and they had a shot. They had a shot to win it. I know folks don't want to celebrate just moderate improvement as opposed to beating a team in a rivalry game, but
no, good
the
point.
improvement was there.
Let's just put up like the visual of Thomas Brown getting so pumped in the booth for the Bears for the YouTube audience. And yes, thank you for everyone that's been subscribing on YouTube. I just loved like how pumped up he was, like one of the best like let's goes after a touchdown. I believe it was the Roshan Johnson touchdown right before halftime. What they did absolutely worked. This was their most encouraging maybe offensive performance of the year, considering the opponent and the situation that it was in.
In the pantheon of headset slams that we've seen on TV over the last few years, there you have the negative one, the angry one, which is Toto Wolff, the team principal of Mercedes-AMG F1. And then you have the positive side, the other end of the spectrum, which is Thomas Brown when they take a 10-7 lead over the Packers in a game they're not supposed to win.
He scared his booth mate that's sitting right next to him. He slams that headset down.
Better get used to it.
And he jumps like, whoa. Oh, we this is why we had Waldron on the field. You're up here breaking stuff.
Man, this division is so good. It's unfortunate. In the NFC, 4-6 for the Bears feels like a death sentence. I thought this team was done. This was such an encouraging performance that if they had won it, they would have felt a little differently. They now feel done at 7-3. The Packers with a really interesting slate of difficult games coming up, starting with a San Francisco 49ers matchup next week. We're going to listen to Matt LaFleur, but then we're going to take a break. So this is Matt LaFleur in the locker room talking about the blocked field goal unit. It was from Packers.com, and we'll take a break. We'll be back on the other side with a little NFC West showdown.
I love how Rich always defines our field goal unit. Right? Mm-hmm. It's the definition, it defines the character of our football team. And I'll tell you what, man, you guys got after their ass on that final play when we needed it right there. That's right. I got one game ball right here. Representing the field goal block unit, goal rush. All right? Where's KB at?
Carl Brooks!
Gino gets him back to the line of scrimmage, 22-21, gets the snap, looks, steps up, gonna run, 10, 5, Gino, touchdown, Seahawks, holy catfish, Gino Smith runs left side, can't find anybody open from 13 out, 12 seconds left, and the Seahawks take the lead, 19-17. Are you kidding me? No quit in this bunch.
Holy catfish! How can you have a frown on your face, Claybon, on a Sunday that produces that? One of the moments of Geno Smith's career. That was Steve Rabel on KIRO. Wow. Geno Smith with the drive that, if nothing else, psychically changes one of the most one-sided division rivalries in the NFL. 49ers, Seahawks. The 49ers have absolutely owned Seattle. Maybe it saves the Seahawks season. It certainly makes them feel more relevant at 5-5. 49ers fall to 5-5. And yes, that was a drive to remember, Shookie.
You know when the voice cracks on the call that it's a peak moment in football in your season as the Seahawks team that desperately needed a win just to stay in the thick of this very messy NFC West race. Guys, when he's scrambling left, I'm shouting at the screen, get out of bounds! Get out of bounds! And then I saw that there was open space. I said, score the touchdown!
I screamed so loud in the newsroom. That was one of my favorite moments.
And that's the thing, is as soon as he crossed the goal line, I thought nobody on this planet will enjoy this moment more than Gregg Rosenthal, and I can't wait to talk to him about it. This was the Geno game, because you had the highs like that. You had the lows, like when he throws a pass rolling to his left and sails it 5 yards over Jackson Smith and Jigba's head for an interception to start the third quarter. Like, you had everything in between. But what you had more than anything was a veteran quarterback who's been doubted, who's been through the fight before, and was capable of leading you down the field when you needed it for a touchdown. And oh, by the way, was also benefiting from the fact that Nick Bosa wasn't able to play because of an injury.
Yeah, so Bosa did not play the last handful of drives of this game. He actually wasn't on the field for any of the Seahawks scores, for what it's worth. And I really give the Seahawks defense, though, a ton of credit. They quietly played their most impressive game of the season, I thought, before the bye shook against the Rams. And it ended up all being for naught because Stafford has that play in overtime. The offense can't come through. And it seems like they played another great game today, and they got the ball back for Geno late, and he ends up knowing he needs to go 80 yards to have a touchdown. Just a bunch of really good decisions. A nice throw to Metcalf, a couple dump-offs. Jackson Smith and Jigba is playing really well. Just a composed veteran type of drive, and he's had a lot of these last-second drives that now over the last couple of seasons, and it just felt like this team, their center literally retired a couple days ago before this game out of nowhere. Connor Williams, like, it just felt like this team was teetering a little bit, and they really needed something like this.
Yeah, and you know, like that sequence on that final drive alone kind of captures who they've been as a team. You know, it goes beyond Geno, but like focusing on him specifically just for this example, he hits a pass over the middle on first down. He misses an out route by like 4 yards shallow, and then he, rips a pass through a tight window to JSN on third down. It's a team that's coming together. I think they're starting to kind of understand how to play together and not having the pressure of the world on them, because they've kind of already realized, oh, we've disappointed ourselves, especially at home, a lot this year. But what stood out to me the most, more than anything, was that they played inspired football on the defensive side, which has been the most unpredictable part of this team this year. They were closing passing windows on third down. Boye Mafe dropping in coverage and batting down a Brock Purdy pass over the middle was really impressive to me. They were getting after him. Purdy had a solid game too, but that was the part that really allowed them to even buy the time to get back into this game and be able to win it, was the fact that they were playing pretty complimentary football, even if the numbers aren't super high from it.
Yeah, able to get, you mentioned Boye Mafe in coverage. His pass rushes are very good as well, bothering Purdy, especially in those key moments where you had a solid Christian McCaffrey game in total yards, but it's going to be tough to limit Christian McCaffrey total yards. Why they were able to kind of limit him in the run game. And then just good decisions by Mike McDonald. You mentioned the fact that their center retires in the middle of the week. Late, again, they only have one timeout. Geno hits Jackson Smith and Jigba, thought he was going to get out of bounds. He instead elects to cut it upfield. I'm wondering if they're going to try to sprint up and clock it. Geno had just had a huge run, and instead of going up there, losing it down to clock it, Mike McDonald goes ahead and calls the timeout. Geno gets the opportunity to get a breather, which he clearly needed because he's able to come back after the timeout and have the game-winning touchdown run. Bosa or not, this is something Geno needed. First win as a starter against the San Francisco 49ers. Vibes up and immaculate on the eve of a huge NFC West battle on November 24th against the Arizona Cardinals.
I love it. This division is stupid. There are 3 5-5 teams. Seahawks, Cardinals, 49ers are all 5-5. And the Cardinals, the Seahawks, Rams, and 49ers are all 5-5. Spoiler alert. And the Cardinals are leading the way at 6-4. All these division games are going to be really fun down the stretch because it's the double jeopardy of second place in this division is very likely not making the playoffs the way that the wild card's shaping up. So it's probably just one spot for all four of these teams, which all have good quarterbacks and all are intriguing, but are all clearly flawed. Juwan Jennings is the man, and 10 catches, 91 yards, so many key first downs. But you get McCaffrey back, and then you lose Nick Bosa during this game. This team just feels a little snake bit. McCaffrey, fine game, over 100 yards from scrimmage, not incredibly explosive. And you just start wondering, Nick, if the Niners team that we keep thinking, and I was saying, well, they're going to start coming along after the bye. Like, maybe the old Niners just aren't coming this year. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they're banged up. I think McCaffrey's going to slowly kind of like build up to what we knew him as. It's because it was a little bit closer than the week prior. But yeah, they're banged up. Like, they didn't have Kittle today. They dealt with a number of injuries on both sides of the ball, and it's just really hurt their ability to get into a rhythm. The beauty of it is that it's week 11. Like, we still have basically 2 months of football left. But in a division like this, where you didn't build an early lead because you lost some games early, you have no breathing room. So you have to hope that you figure it out quickly and hope that you can do it if you continue to miss guys here and there, if you can find a way to piece it together and hit that stride before you're at full strength. Because at this point, they're not going to really be at full strength this year.
Right. Well, but they were the team that had a really tough schedule down the stretch. Them and the Seahawks compared to the Rams and Cardinals. And just on paper, it looked tougher. And this was a game you thought they would win. They go on the road the next 2 weeks in Green Bay and Buffalo. It's nut cutting time. Like, it is time for them to show up in this season, or else it's going to totally slip away from them. They are 1-3 in the division, so they actually don't have that many division games left to make up ground. They have the Rams at home, and then they finish the season in Week 18 in Arizona. They also have an at Miami and a home for Detroit. They are getting tested in a way in the regular season we haven't seen since the Jimmy Garoppolo, like, out for the season type injury seasons that they've had. And so it's been a minute. It is going to be a challenge for this team to make the playoffs. That's true of the Seahawks too, but at least Geno and the Seahawks are feeling better. Let's actually listen to Geno after the game.
I was out there smiling on that last drive. Like, when I walked on the field, I mean, I just kind of felt like angels in the outfield, like somebody just rubbing my shoulders the whole time. And I just felt like there was no pressure. And I think the perspective that I have, that I've gained over my career, has allowed me to play that way. And so whenever there is a moment or a mistake that's made, I never really get too down on myself. And I also don't get too high when good things happen. I think as long as you stay even-keeled throughout the process, I think, things work out better that way.
Well, I'd feel like angels in the outfield are rubbing me if I had that shirt and sunglasses combo waiting for me after game. I have never seen angels in the outfield, I have to admit. I feel like Patrick definitely has. And so he can tell me about it or explain that to me.
I mean, it's a pretty self-explanatory title. The angels are.
Why are you so surprised?
By deities. I feel like everybody. There was a run there, Greg.
Yeah.
Where there was super early internet-wise.
Yeah.
Culture was generally driven by movies, and Angels in the Outfield for sports fans was probably one that most of us did encounter. I think it's not just going to shock me. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked.
I hear you, but this is where I think our age difference, and Nick is obviously much younger than myself and younger than Patrick as well. I was like 15 then. Like, am I going to see like Disney movies in the theater? No. I was like,
Greg was too cool.
Yeah,
to see Angels in the Outfield.
I was too cool at 15 or 16, whatever it was. It was just kind of like, that's kid stuff. I don't need Angels in the Outfield in my life. You know what I do need in my life?
I know where you stand on Toy Story then. God,
I'm just saying, at that particular time, it's like, do I want to go see that, or I don't know.
Oh, Greg had other plans, Nick. That's what we're finding.
Do we just want to go
it's on the streets,
drive around the hills of Western Massachusetts and find the beer that we buried in the forest? All right. You know what else I have time for? It's time for the Sunday Drive, presented by the all-new hybrid Toyota Camry. Let's go to Foxborough.
Here in Foxborough, Rams on defense protecting a 6-point lead. Third down, 13, deep drop for May. Heaves it over the middle. It's picked, intercepted at midfield. Cam Kinchins takes a seat with LA's 5th win on a pass intended for Demario Douglas. Kinchins calls game.
That was our friend JB Long, KSPN. Rams close out a 28-22 victory on a mistake by Demario Douglas. I don't even think it was on Drake May. Why aren't you looking, Demario Douglas? It's going right over your head. Making my rookie quarterback look bad in a big spot. Rams get the road victory. Fun quarterback. Wait, I gotta just stop it down for a second though. You never like buried alcohol in the forest or anything?
I want to learn more about the esteemed Gregg Rosenthal Forest beer.
Yeah, this is, people just would like go put them out. We're in Western Massachusetts, you get the beer and you just like go.
I've heard of this.
You go put them out somewhere and then you go meet up and everyone Because you're not going to leave it in the house. You're not going to carry it around. Someone just puts it out in the woods.
But somebody has to carry it to bury it.
Yeah, you carry it. You don't even bury it. You just kind of you just go put it out by some trees or whatever. Yeah,
twigs,
you buy it, you get it, you leave it out there. You assume no one's going to go take it. You're fine. What else are you going to do to entertain yourself?
At the other outpost, he had some experience with this as well, from what I recall listening to. So you're not alone in this. It's just that the geographical connection, we're missing it here with me and Patrick.
And yes, I'm glad we're talking about this because, yes, my geographical connection to the Massachusetts region, people should be feeling better in Massachusetts. We'll get to the Rams part of it here. But I actually do want to start with Drake May.
Do it. I'm shocked, Greg.
I think this is the best loss you could possibly have. Like, Drake May is so good. This was actually his best game. I don't even think it was close. And I know he ends up with 2 turnovers here. One on a sack that was so fast from Kobe Turner, the conductor, getting inside quickly with the pressure, and then Braden Fisk finishing him off, that he had no real chance on that. But this was the game that I was waiting to see because Drake May's shown the real highs, but on a play-to-play basis, it's still been real up and down. And I thought he was just nails. Like, he was changing plays before the line of scrimmage. He was really accurate. Most of it was short stuff. He was, reading the defenses. I thought him and Van Pelt, the play caller, were on the same page. They didn't have a ton of drives in this game, and they almost went for 400 yards. So all game, they looked like a real deal NFL, professional offense. It wasn't about the scrambling. He got 27 yards on the ground in the end and had a couple key little scrambles, but that was just a minor part. Sean McVay said it after the game that, wow, this kid is going to be special long term. And so that was my biggest takeaway, was he was doing all the little mental stuff that people like Nate Tice were saying. He's better than you think at that, at getting the gimmies, getting the short stuff. And if it wasn't for 3 or 4 drops from his receivers, a couple of which changed drives, a couple killer penalties, which took 30, 40, 50 yards off the field. Another boneheaded Jalen Polk play where he goes with a false start on a 4th and 1 late in this game, which actually forced them to kick a field goal to make it 28-22, or else it could have been a different game and them going for the touchdown. Just a ton of mental errors. I have no faith in this Patriots team around him, and the decision-making by Gerard Mayo, where he thinks he has a good defense and their defense is getting cooked all day. All of that was bad. And you just got this shining star of a rookie quarterback that is really exciting if you're a Patriots fan right now. And we'll get to the Rams, but talk about Drake May, Nick Shook, or don't.
Yeah, well, that's what gets you excited about it, is that in previous weeks it was okay, well, he's just going to scramble his tail off for the first quarter of the game before he settles in. And now he's actually not needing to do that. He's settling in. He's using his mind and his processing ability to throw on-target passes, taking the gimmies like you said. He's settling in. He kind of, in spots, reminds me of what I saw from Joe Burrow way back in his rookie season. It's week 2. I'm in the formerly known Cleveland Browns Stadium watching them play the Bengals, and I'm like, wow, the speed of the game is not too much for this kid. His processing is there. He's making the right decisions. Granted, he threw the ball 53 times in that game. You don't want Drake May doing that, but he did throw the ball 40 times today for 282 and 2 touchdowns. So he can handle it. That's what helps you sleep at night as a Patriots fan. It's just that now they got to fix everything else around it.
But they don't need to. They don't need to win this year. They're 3-8.
No.
That's all fine, and they didn't win today because I thought the quarterback play in this game, Patrick, was outstanding. It was as high level as you could have possibly expected. Like I said, I think it was easily Drake May's best game. It was also one of Matthew Stafford's best games in a long time. He was just about perfect after just a couple little misplays early, but only 18 completions, but he did it for 295 yards. Every play was big. Mentally, he was absolutely sharp. He beats the 0 blitz to Cooper Kupp for a long touchdown, but some of the throws to Nakua were fantastic. Puka's running over players. The touchdown to Colby Parkinson was just a fantastic flip your hits, throwing left. It was the Matthew Stafford that we've been waiting to see.
Yeah, and now 4 touchdowns in 2 of his last 3 games. Puka goes for 123 and a score where I was worried he hurt himself again because he does the Puka Nakua thing, completely lays out to make a grab in the end zone, is able to stay in the game. He has 123 yards. That one score, Cooper Kupp had another to go with the long touchdown you mentioned as they beat the blitz. Kyron averages 5.7 yards per carry. It's the Rams offense that we were promised. right? That kind of didn't necessarily show up, and we'll talk about the Dolphins defense and the win that they had, because I think we're going to go back, especially Rams fans are going to go back and kind of circle that game in primetime, that loss to the Dolphins, depending on how this season shakes out in the NFC West. But it's tough to critique this particular Rams team where they, on offense, everybody was there and everybody played well, and they protected Stafford well as well.
I have a critique, and the critique is not specifically about this game, but it's just about the unreliability of Matthew Stafford this year. Who is he? Like, who is he? Last week he was not good. This week he's 18 for 27 for 295 and 4 touchdowns. Which Stafford am I getting? Because it's driving me insane.
Yeah, this was really encouraging. Maybe he's the guy, although last week would prove me wrong, that excels when he's got one of the best wide receivers in football. I really think, like, just A/B testing, when Puka Nacua plays football, like, they're a really good offense.
But he had them both last week.
Well, that's true.
And they didn't do anything. That's what drives me insane.
That's true. But other than that, Chuck,
throw out that part of the test.
And, like, he's just so good, Puka Nacua. I don't think he's 100%. And it's not just because of when he came up off that diving touchdown. I don't think he was moving that fast in this game, and yet he made so many defenders miss. He ran people over. He was so good on out-breaking routes. Stafford was in this game. It was something like 11 for 16 for 153 and 3 touchdowns. Those are like difficult throws that you need a big arm to make. A lot of them were to Puka Nacua. Our friend Jordan Rodriguez, The Athletic, points out that the touchdown to Kupp was very much similar to the love of the game route that Cooper Kupp had against the Buccaneers in the playoffs, where he's supposed to just kind of be running that route but isn't expected to get it. But over the years, they've realized sometimes it does pop open, and that he now is more of an option on that play. And that was a fantastic play by the offensive line and Stafford to read it, and then Kupp got free behind Jonathan Jones. But they had 13, Nacua and Kupp, of the 18 catches, but they're not all equal. I mean, Puka is a number one, and he is awesome. And the dimes from Stafford were so fun. I want to listen to see if our friend JB Long enjoyed that Colby Parkinson touchdown, because that was one of the sweetest plays of the entire day.
2nd down 2. Rams at the 19 of the Patriots. Bootleg, left side, end zone toss, looking for Parkinson. Man. He brings it in over his shoulder. His first as a Ram. Touchdown, Colby Parkinson. 19 yards. It's another red zone dot from Matthew Stafford.
I mean, he is fading away. That's like a trick shot, and he has to time that so perfectly, or else Parkinson runs out of room right over the linebacker. That was sweet. They did punt a couple times in the 4th quarter, which gave the Patriots a chance to win this game, but my God, was he on fire for a while.
That throw made me feel like I do when I step into a really, really hot tub. Just,
Yes. That was awesome. It was really good to see Christian Barmore back on the field. He's been out all season with blood clots. Said that he went through some tough times really in the months since we've seen him, and so it was good. He made a couple plays, and yeah, like I mentioned, this defense, they always make a couple plays to change the game, and even though the secondary struggled a little bit, Kobe Turner was awesome. I do think Gerard Mayo has got to do a better job in terms of game management. Very conservative, acting like they're not moving the ball in this game with a couple 4th down decisions. They can't pick up a yard to save their life inside the 5. Let your guy, Drake May, get out, and he's the best player on your team right now. Just give him the ball like he's Josh Allen. Do not trust the running game. It's not happening. Great win by the Rams. That was the Sunday drive presented by the all-new hybrid Toyota Camry. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry. So big win for the Rams, gets them to 5-5, and right in the thick of things. That was the Broncos' record entering Sunday. They knew they needed a win after a couple tough losses to Denver.
Nix will operate under center on 2nd and 6 from the Falcon 41. Play fake. Bo rolls to his right, squares his shoulders, throws a strike. That ball caught, and this is little Jordan Humphrey pulling away to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Denver. Little Jordan Humphrey, a strike from Bo Nix, 41 yards on the touchdown reception. That is the 4th touchdown pass of the game by rookie Bo Nix.
Bo Nix had 4 touchdowns and 307 yards and 5 incompletions in an NFL game to get a 38-6 win to keep the Broncos in playoff position. This is happening. He's getting better every week. Sean Payton is dealing. Bo Nix is dealing. They embarrassed the Falcons. Blowout win. Good foresight by us, Patrick. All 3 of us on Game Day View, Cynthia, myself, and you, predicted a Broncos win, and they got it.
Yeah, none of us had 38-6.
No.
Where Michael Penix is coming in and making plays late in this game because it's just a wrap for Kirko and company, where they really couldn't get anything going. He's 18-27 for 123 yards. And then Kirk Cousins got -2 yards on pressured dropbacks.
Wow.
That was the total. He's pressured on 30% of his dropbacks for a total of -2 yards. Wasn't necessarily that great in no pressure situations where the Falcons couldn't stay on the field for long periods of time. And when they could, as was the case all season, they could get absolutely no pressure on Bo Nix, including on 2 screen pass touchdowns where the Broncos got a touchdown to Mims, and then they come back later on, next red zone possession, they run the same play to Troy Franklin, and there's no Falcons in the picture. Quinn Miners gets free, blocks 2 people. The exact same thing happened a couple of drives later, where the Broncos were just having success on everything they called today.
That is Sean Payton in his bag. He did that so often in New Orleans, where he'd run the same play but with different personnels later in the game. He does little things in the game that show you how good he is, and why not? They have such a crazy team right now. They're winning up front. The biggest mismatch all day was Broncos offensive line versus Falcons pass rush. But it's a mismatch on the other side too, Shook. Their pass rush for the Broncos is getting after Cousins. It's situational football. It's complementary football. It's looking at a 3-person backfield and using all these guys like Vele and little Jordan Humphrey and Franklin, and they're all making plays. And it really does remind you of Saints teams. I don't want to go crazy with the Knicks Breeze comparisons, but they are really ahead of where I would have expected them to possibly be here at 6-5.
I'm just trying to figure out who Marcus Colston is in this receiving core.
They don't have him yet. Yeah, they do not have him.
They don't. But it's fun. This is a very fun team to root for because it is a bunch of young guys. Little Jordan Humphrey's been there for a couple of years now, but Devon Vele and Troy Franklin and even Audric Estime, the big hulking running back from Notre Dame. He gets his run in the last couple of weeks. It's been very fun to root for them. But you're right. When it comes to playing the Falcons, there is one best course to victory over them, which is getting after Kirk Cousins. Because as we've discussed many times on this show this season, he can't move. And how do you stop that offense? You get in his face and dare him to make throws under pressure. And I mean, that's really what made a difference for Denver in today's game, and then allowed them to just continue doing what they've been doing with Bo Nix for weeks, which is get him out on the perimeter. That highlight we just played, he's on a play action rollout. Of course, he's going to find the guy. That's where he's at his best. So it's fun to see all this come together. I have a hard time looking at the Broncos and thinking, legit. But at the same time,
I don't.
You're going to be legit if you're still in the conversation at the end of the year. I'm not saying they're a title contender, but it's fun to see them in the conversation right now.
I would make the case if we're going Saints parallels that Cortland Sutton to Marcus Colston is probably as solid as you can get on this route. We'll have Devon Vele be Devery Henderson. Maybe Javonte is
Mims is Henry. It doesn't quite work. I mean, you're right. Sutton has some aspects to him, but he's more of a deep guy. Yeah.
But there was a play where Bo Nix, in one of the situations where everybody was covered, which was very rare in this game, Bo Nix lofts one up to Cortland Sutton, who goes up and makes a grab over the top of A.J. Terrell, who was in good position on the play. It takes the ball away from him. Just an overmatched Atlanta Falcons team where they had the disaster in New Orleans. And Younghoe Koo came back, hit 2 long field goals today, so the kicking game wasn't necessarily. I saw people, concerned about the alignment because Koo takes that awkward stance. The stance stayed the same. The positioning and the distance was the same today. He hit his kicks this week, but it did not matter other than the Falcons getting a few points, which if he didn't hit them, they wouldn't have had any.
Right. There was a 4th and go for it by Raheem early in this game where they got it in their own end, down 14-3. And I thought that was a telling go for it and smart that Raheem knows their defense isn't good and that they're going to have to be really aggressive to win games offensively. Now, this is their worst offensive performance, and it's why I think the Broncos are legit. Now, winning the Super Bowl legit? No, but like a legit playoff type of team. When you're that good up front and your coaching is that good on both sides of the ball, then you totally pass my smell test as like a 6 or a 7 seed, which I think they are angling towards. Peyton and the Broncos and the rest of the AFC West has benefited from playing the NFC South. Like, that's partly why they're loading up on wins. But Sean Payton owns this division. Like, they swept the NFC South. Sean Payton did it. Like, he is still the best coach in the NFC South. Most of these games weren't even close either. Like, he handed the Bucs their worst offensive performance of the season. That was back. I mean, Vance Joseph is coaching really well, really creative, and the Falcons never felt to me like a 6-3 team or even a 6-4 team. Maybe they're more of a 6-5 team. Their defense, I think, is so problematic that we'll see if there's a team over 500 at the end of the year in the NFC South. I think the Bucs are very much alive in this division. If you look at their schedule, I think they can go win this division. I would guess like 9 wins. You got a decent chance here to be at least tied for the NFC South division, championship. We'll see. Like, I just think that's where it's going, that these two teams. You don't look like you agree, Shooky.
No, I see 3 wins on their schedule right now that I feel comfortable about, which is the Falcons, which is Vegas, Giants, Panthers, and then you get Chargers, Vikings, and Commanders. They're all smashed in here together, but I mean, they're 6-4. I can see them winning 9 games and winning the division.
Probably their over-under right now should be about 10. Like, you're right, but they're a team. Their pass rush, their defense is problematic enough that I don't think any game is for sure. Good job there by the Broncos. While we're talking teams like trying to stay in the playoff mix, let's stay in the AFC and let's go down to Miami.
2nd and 11 for Miami from their own 43-yard line. Nursing a 5-point lead here in the fourth quarter with 3:28 left to play. Jeremy Smythe in motion across the formation. Back to throw Tua. Getting pressure, gets it off downfield, and he's got a wide open Smith at the 30, at the 20. It's a foot race to the end zone. Touchdown!
Wow, Tua Tagovailoa is looking down the field, and Jonnu Smith got behind everybody.
That was Tua Tagovailoa's only throw over 20 air yards all game, and it was a great one. He found some blown coverage. When you need a big play, you call up Jonnu Smith. That was Jimmy Cephalo and Joe Rose on WBGG in Miami. What an offensive performance by the Dolphins in this game. It really shows how their offense is different this year, but absolutely back. 34 points on only 7 drives. They scored on 6 of those drives, mostly touchdowns, and the only one that they didn't was a 45-second drive at the end of a very weird first half where they really didn't have time to get going. Extraordinarily efficient. They were 8 for 12 on 3rd down. Tua was just making great throw after great throw on 3rd down. Yeah, most of them were under 10 yards. Some were in the 10 to 20 range. The thing that really gets to me when I think about this Dolphins team lately is that Tua from the pocket, mostly good, but there was like a 3rd quarter play where he looked for Tyreek Hill. It was dialed up perfectly, and Tua just made the wrong decision of like what type of throw to make, and he just lays it up there and gives Jack Jones chance to come back and break it up. Very next play is one that shouldn't have worked. The Raiders' pass rush was decent today. They flushed Tua out. He's rolling to his left. He makes a sensational touchdown throw to Tyreek, and his numbers in this game in terms of creative, first of all, 7 for 8 when he held the ball over 2.5 seconds for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then 3 for 3 when he was outside of the pocket and on the run. Like, Creator Tua is really making it happen in the last handful of weeks, and it's working.
And we saw it on the touchdown to Jonnu Smith, where these are the plays, considering his injury history, where we tend to say, oh, no, like, Tua, what's going on? Get rid of the football. But he's made the right decisions, like including the win out here against the Rams. You mentioned that touchdown pass where it's things get squirrely in the pocket. He rolls out. Tyreek comes with him. He's able to get his 2nd foot in for that touchdown there, where this offense is more Jonnu Smith than Jalen Waddle now. We haven't seen a lot of Jalen Waddle this season, but you can't argue with the results. Is Jonnu goes over 100 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns there. And Devon Achane had a solid performance. All of Devon Achane's production has come in games where Tua Tagovailoa is the starting quarterback. It's almost like the Dolphins just ceased to exist for a few weeks there, and now they're back, and we're left to wonder what if things didn't go wrong.
Well, they're 4-6. So in the NFC, that would probably be a death sentence. In the AFC, I think you got a chance to make a run at that 7th spot. Another easy matchup next week, and then an interesting one on Thanksgiving. So they're in it. You're right. It's too bad when you think about those games that they weren't more prepared for their backup quarterbacks. But yeah, Achane goes over 100 yards from scrimmage, 105 yards, including 4 catches. Mostert is weirdly not part of this group. The running game was fine today, but they didn't really need it. They kind of knew what they were getting from the Raiders defense, and they just kept possessing the ball. There was only 5 drives, Nick, in the first half of this game. 5 total, not from 5 team, 5 total. 4 drives in a row from the Raiders and the Dolphins that were all at least 12 plays. 3 of them were 14 plays or more. 1 was 16 plays. The Raiders offense actually played quite well today. The Turners made a difference, but it just didn't matter because the Raiders defense couldn't get any stops.
Yeah, if you want a sign that football is cyclical, look at the Miami Dolphins, one of the most explosive teams in the NFL in the last couple of seasons, suddenly becoming like the Chiefs are, kind of, which is a shorter offense. They're taking what defenses are giving them. Jonnu Smith's role increases because of this style of offense, essentially. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Dolphins already went through hell and high water with this team this year without Tua Tagovailoa for that stretch. So now it's like, all right, let's get our rhythm back. Let's get kind of acclimated again. Let's take what the defense gives us, and we'll just move our way down the field. We don't need to be the 70-yard touchdown pass team anymore when we can beat a team like this. I am curious. I want to know, because I was wondering about this last week when they were doing the same thing to beat the Rams. Do they have that in the bag still? Or is it something that, like, we're just trying to win games right now? And again, against this defense, too, this is a defense that gave up 41 points and 5 touchdown passes to Joe Burrow recently. So it is the Raiders still. But yeah, I'm very curious about the Dolphins and see if we'll ever get that from them again.
Well, we saw today where you think about this Mike McDaniel offense and play action, guys in motion. They only had 6 play action dropbacks today.
Wow.
Tua Tagovailoa.
That's like, I was going to say Kirk Cousins-like, but Kirk Cousins only had 1 today when I looked.
You have to throw Kirko out. Just when we're talking play action, it's just the Falcons don't do it. It's weird, but weird from the Dolphins today. But on his non-play action dropbacks, Tua was 24 of 30 for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It like Antonio Pierce knows he's in a tough spot. He actually told the broadcast crew that he made the offensive coordinator change because he wants to be around next year too, which so he's very aware.
Keeps it real.
He's very aware that he could be one and done. And when his defense is getting shredded like this, they had no answers. You do worry. Like I said, the Raiders' offense was better. People are going to look at their leading rusher was Jacoby Myers with 20 yards and look at the points and think it's same old Raiders. I don't blame them. In their first 5 drives, when the game was actually in doubt, the score was 31-19 with 3 minutes to go. They averaged 3.8 points per drive. To put that in perspective, that would be the greatest offense in NFL history. Like they moved the ball, they scored points. I know it like they were going slowly down the field, and until Minshew threw that interception and the game was basically over. Like he had a couple like scattered bad Minshew plays, but overall they were good, and he was pretty good in this game. Brock Bowers is an absolute beast. He is the best tight end in the NFL, in my opinion, at least certainly receiving 13 catches for 126 yards. They built the whole plane out of him, and the combination of his hands and his yards after the catch ability are just crazy. He's one of the best tight ends catching the ball on a play-to-play basis that I've ever seen. I mean, he really is that good. He took my breath away how good he was in this game. The Dolphins had absolutely no answer for him when they put Jalen Ramsey on him. Sometimes they double him. Like everyone knew on 3rd down they were going to Bowers, and he was making the hard catches. He was making it easy. He had 78 yards after the catch too, making people miss. He is freaking awesome. Maybe they'll be happy they didn't get Michael Penix. I don't know. Depends. You would always rather have a quarterback, but man, Brock Bowers is so freaking good that I think they should be thrilled that they have Brock Bowers. I'm thrilled to take another break. That's right. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little Saints, a little Browns, and a little coming out party. If a 34-year-old can have a coming out party after the break.
I totally agree. 2nd and 7, Taysom again. This time left side, we get to the outside. 25, 30, Taysom on his feet. 40, Taysom's going to go down the sideline. 40, 30, Taysom 20, 10. What a day. See you later, bye. Taysom Hill, guess what? He didn't step out of bounds. Nothing. 75 yards.
Taysom Hill with his 3rd rushing touchdown on the day. He finishes with 130 out on the ground, but that's not all. He finished with 8 catches and 50 yards through the air, but that's not all. He completed one 18-yard pass and threw an interception through the air. Maybe don't do the deep Taysom Hill throws anymore. But my God, what a performance by Taysom Hill. That was Mike Haas and Deuce McAllister on WWL. Saints win 35-14 against the Browns in a game that was tied, I believe, in the 4th quarter, 14-all, and they just put on them late. Nick, I know you probably didn't enjoy this as much as Saints fans, but I gotta say, I do like when sports gives you something, and like for all the Saints fans that showed up today, it's been a bad season. You got last week, and then you get this Taysom Hill game. Like, that's a memory. I feel like that people went to that game will remember the Taysom Hill game for the rest of their lives in a bad season, and that's about as much as I could have hoped for in a Saints-Browns matchup at this point in the year.
I can attest to that. In 2010, the Browns went to the Superdome, and David Bowens picked off Drew Brees twice and took them both back for touchdowns. So it does linger in your mind. This was a classic. All right, first I have to say this real quick, okay? I am a noted, and maybe I keep this under the covers a little bit, I'm a noted Taysom Hill hater, just because I don't like it when people's names get thrown into flashpoint topics that are then circulated and recycled over and over again. So to see Taysom Hill go bananas,
we're kind of past
against
that
the
with
Browns,
him, aren't we? Aren't we in the post?
You would think that would upset me, but Taysom Hill's role has evolved. We're no longer flirting with the idea of him being the full-time starting quarterback, and that interception would show you why. He is still a very threatening ball carrier, and he ran through those Browns arm tackles like it was the easiest job in the world. He was fantastic today, and Derek Carr, excuse me, was also fantastic for the most part. A couple of really good games for him. I mean, the Saints, look, I'm not going to buy in and be like, oh, they're turning it around, but it's nice for them to have a couple of really good positive weeks under Darren Rizzi. And this time they did it without a clogged toilet, so good on the janitor as well.
Jameis, after the game, was caught on video just going up to hug his old teammate Taysom Hill and just said, "You are amazing, man." And he did it with a look in his eyes like that. That was JC right there. He was praying to Taysom Hill. After the game, he said, when you're playing against one of the best all-time athletes the NFL has ever seen, you have to come with it. He was prepared, and he did a great job today. And I do think there is something to that Taysom Hill's teammates are always like, man, this guy is amazing. Like when he's at practice and everything. And so you just appreciate the Taysom Hilliest game of all time.
It literally. And you question the Taysom Hill deep shots. I think they needed it. Like the Browns getting that Taysom Hill interception had the secondary salivating to the point where it's like, all right, we got to buckle in here because Taysom's throwing the rock. And that was it. The 2 attempts, one completion for 18 yards, and then the interception as well. But 138 yards on the ground. Taysom Hill averaged 19 yards a carry. Like the pass is such a factor where it's like we don't want to get beat by Taysom Hill. So yeah, have him go in there and throw a pick. Otherwise, keep balls away from Alvin Kamara, where the defense is thinking that it's a give, but no, it's Taysom. It's Taysom every time.
Man,
why wouldn't it be?
I'll never forget with our great friend Chris Wesseling, who this studio is named after that Vikings Saints playoff game, and him just standing on the table and saying Taysom Hill was the best player in that game. He was the best athlete. He was the best player. And I was like you back then. I was getting sick of Taysom Hill before it even happened. I was like, this man had 6 touches. Can we calm down on the Taysom Hill of it all? And now here he is, 34 years old, and he's somehow better than ever. They use him better than ever. Clint Kubiak with a nice game plan. I mean, look, if Valdez Scantling is getting a 70-yard touchdown every week, I mean, and Derek Carr only had 6 incompletions against pretty good secondary, 248 yards and 2 touchdowns. And your number one receiver, other than Valdez-Scantling the last couple weeks, is Kevin Austin, and you're winning games in the NFL. I'm giving you a lot of credit, Darren Rizzi. Let's go. Let's go, Rizzi.
Also, Dante Pettis almost had a punt return for a touchdown, but half of his foot stepped out barely, which is why they said didn't step out of bounds that time on the hill run. That would have been cool, too, considering all the places he's been in his NFL career. It's a bunch of people you could root for.
Low moment for the Stefanski era, 2-8, the defense maybe collapsing a little.
Maybe.
If you started Jameis in fantasy, you're like, wait, they had a bad day? I mean, he had 395 and 2 touchdowns, but it's pretty dark for your Browns.
Yeah, not much good to say about them. The tackling crumbled on the back end, and their offense is still around. I mean, Jameis did a good job. If week 1 for Jameis's first start against the Ravens was like the high point, like the productive side, you're going to get a lot of touchdowns out of him. And then the second start was all the bad parts, which is all the turnovers, the 3 picks. This is like right in between. Did enough to lead a couple touchdown drives, couldn't convert in the fourth quarter in a close game. Defense doesn't do its job. And next thing you know, you're down 21 points with a few minutes left in the game.
Well, we've been talking all season how many teams have 2 or 3 losses this year. Right now, it's 9 different teams. Cleveland is in 3rd place in Tankathon at 2-8. The Saints now, after a couple wins at 4-7. Who knows? Maybe the NFC South is up for grabs. Let's go to Tennessee, where the Titans have been out of the mix and in the mix for that number 1 overall pick.
Darnold back to pass, hit as he throws. Finds Addison over the middle. 25-20, near side 10-5. Touchdown! Jordan Addison with his 4th touchdown this season. It's a 47-yard strike from Sam, the man on the fan.
That was Paul Allen on KFAN. Jordan Addison feels like he only makes awesome big-time catches. He's like the poor man's Devontae Smith, but I don't want to call him a poor man's anything because he's an outstanding number 2 receiver. Vikings win 23-13 in Tennessee. Kind of the game everyone expected, really. Like nothing too crazy, right? But they're in control, but it's not like a crazy blowout. Maybe I'm wrong, Patrick.
Well, I was just thinking because coming off of that dreadful game by Sam Darnold when he had the turnovers. He actually injures his hand trying to make a play after one of his own turnovers against Jacksonville. Now he's another game against an AFC South opponent where I think this game was better than Sam Darnold's stat line. He was 20 of 32 for 246. Got the ball to 9 different receivers. That touchdown that we heard there, the touchdown to Jordan Addison with pressure around his feet. He had 141 quarterback rating under pressure in this game, pressured on 32% of his dropbacks. He was good in the pocket, had a couple of throws on the run where we didn't necessarily know what we were going to get from this Minnesota Vikings offense. I think it was a bounce back. Of course, Justin Jefferson had a solid game. And then on the other side, the Titans had a few big plays go the other way. It wasn't just that Jordan Addison touchdown. Calvin Ridley had a 51-yard touchdown called back due to a late illegal shift that really didn't have anything to do with the play. There was also an unsportsmanlike call on Coach Callahan because they got an unnecessary roughness on a 3rd and goal that actually gave the Vikings a 1st and goal at the 1-yard line. That you could say that the contact wasn't to the head and neck area, it was a shot to the chest. He lost his mind after that, got an unsportsmanlike. Darnold scored on the next play. So there are spots here where this Titans team showed a little bit of fight.
Yeah.
But just the same type of mistakes that has them with the record that they do.
They also had a 98-yard touchdown, and there's been so few moments to hear from Mike Keith on this show all season.
Get a touchdown.
I have not heard this call, but if you're going to give me a 98-yard Titans touchdown, I'm going to listen to it.
6 men set to rush. Levis from his end zone, firing deep downfield for Westbrook. Akine's got it! 40, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 5, end zone! Touchdown! Titans! The longest touchdown pass of the year in the National Football League just went 98 yards!
Put that on the calls of the year list. That was Mike Keith of WGFX, a man whose voice is so distinctive. Shook somehow Walker, my son, knew it. Like I heard him say, like while playing Madden, touchdown Titans. I was like, wait, you know Mike Keith? That is amazing. But he's like watched enough of like the highlights videos on NFL that he knows it. So a little bit of levity there for the Titans. And Levis has been better, by the way, since he's been benched. If you want to look for some positives.
Yeah, he's slowly getting back to where they want him to be. I think anybody who roots for quarterbacks wants him to be, because you see the potential there in between. Now I am kind of rooting for a 99-yard Will Levis touchdown pass, just so I can hear yards one more time.
Yes, that was what did it for me. I love that. Yeah, credit to Darnold for having a good game on a day where they couldn't run the ball. A little bit concerned, I think. Aaron Jones, and when it was Cam Akers too, that wasn't working either. But Aaron Jones is kind of, and their running game hasn't been really working well. That might be where they missed Christian Darrisaw as well, not just in the passing game. So on a day like that, to be able to cruise and be efficient, and obviously have Brian Flores do his whole thing, that's huge. They're 8-2, only one loss behind the Lions here, and Kevin O'Connell, feeling a little chesty after the game.
I'm old enough to remember when nobody thought we were very good. So the same way that I answered that question, I'll answer it now. We just got to continue to get better, improve. 8-2 means absolutely nothing.
Name names, KOC.
Yeah.
Put them on blast.
Yeah.
Who is it?
And 8-2 does mean something. It means you're very likely to make the playoffs based on your schedule, and that you absolutely have a chance. Like we talked, like, oh, the Eagles, do they have a chance at the 1 seed? It's like, I don't think the Vikings are going to get there, but they're literally just one game back, and we have some head-to-head coming up, so they absolutely could do it. Big time job by the Vikings. They did what have good teams do, which is they've taken care of business all season long and beaten the bad teams. And they had this little run against the 3 bad AFC South teams, and they beat them all. Like, couple were ugly, Colts and Jags. Titans, you win on the road. Good job by them. Speaking of, a mismatched NFC North versus AFC South matchup, we're going to go to Lions and Jaguars next. But before we do that, we're just going to say goodbye to Patrick Claybon, because Kevin Patra coming at you is going to do a couple games with me, and then Shook, you'll come back with me to finish up with Sunday Night Football. Patrick, I hope we've brightened your mood since this all started.
Oh, it's always bright. It's always bright. What is life without football? And if not for the losses, we couldn't appreciate the wins.
Oh, wow. That really was Buddha-like. Let's go to Detroit.
Goff up under center, turns, fakes the give to Jameer, throws, end zone, caught, Amon-Ra St. Brown, touchdown Detroit Lions. Goff with a dart, 14 is having a day, 16 is having a day, this whole team is having a day.
If it's Sunday, it's a great call by Dan Miller of WXYT. That was the 7th Lions touchdown on the 7th Lions drive. At the time, it was 49-6. They close out the Jaguars, potentially close out Doug Peterson's career with the Jaguars with a 52-6 victory. More on Peterson in a second. Kevin Patra's here, living the good life as a Lions fan. It's their first 8-game winning streak since 1934. I don't know if your grandparents were alive back then.
They were. My grandparents were.
Okay,
yes, that's about all I know.
Steve Belichick might have been on that team. Who knows? He was at some point. What a team this is. Before we get to the Jaguars of it all, because that is interesting to me. Like, just explain what stood out the most to you in this version of offensive excellence in terms of their performance.
How easy it was. It was like 7-on-7 out there for Goff. It was hilarious. Like you knew on second down or third down, I was like, okay, this is going to be a first down. It was Amon-Ra St. Brown, they could not stop him. 11 for 11 for 161 yards.
What?
Anytime there was a question mark, it was like, yeah, this is going to St. Brown and it's going to be a first down. They had 2 of their first 3 drives. They didn't even get third down. They didn't hit 1 third down in 2 of their 3 first drives, touchdown drives. Like it was offensive efficiency at its finest. And the offensive line gets a lot of credit, but they really won this game. I mean, Walker and Hines Allen had a few pressures, but Goff had all day. He could have had 3 tea parties back there and then made a throw, and it would have gone for a first down.
They had 38 first downs in this game.
38.
I got to admit, I did not see that until just now. I can't imagine there are many teams in the history of the NFL that have ever had 38 first downs. What the heck?
It was crazy because, like I said, the last time when they whooped the Titans and they scored 50-plus points, they had a lot of short fields and the defense got turnovers. That didn't happen today. It was literally like 70-yard drive, 80-yard drive, 40, 50-yard drive, 65-yard drive, 72-yard drive. It was unreal. 8.5 yards per play. I mean, J-Mo went for 124. Gibbs had 123 scrimmage yards. I mean, I don't know what David Montgomery was doing, only getting 75 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, what a bad day, you know.
So it's a franchise record of 645 yards of offense. They are the first team to score a touchdown on their first 7 drives since the 2007 Patriots. In terms of Lions history, it's the first since at least 1933. They just don't go back that far. There are just so many different stats you can come up with. That many yardage is a lot of fun. And Montgomery and Gibbs getting it done every week. Jamison Williams having that moment where he spins and he has the 64-yard touchdown. That's his second receiving touchdown of over 60 yards. It's just awesome. They are a historic group, Kevin, and just before we get to the Jaguars, and I'm not going to ask you this each time we have you on to the Lions game, but just at this moment in time, I just do want to know what it's like to be a Lions fan and the people around you and everything like that.
It's insane. Like as Lions, like the mentality has always been like, okay, we're going to probably lose this week, but if we win, it's fun. And just talking to friends and stuff, like now it's like, no, we're winning. Like there was no question walking into this game. And like the Jags kicked a 59-yard field goal on the first drive, and it felt like the JV like golf clap, JV team scoring on the varsity team golf clap going on. Like, okay, you had your fun, and now the real team's gonna get the ball and just gonna march down the field. It was a mismatch that you rarely see on NFL level. Usually when there's a blowout, there's folly from the other team. It was just poor play on one side and awesome execution on the other.
It sounds crazy, but I actually am glad that they had this sort of performance just because the last couple of weeks, that Titans game was weird. Their offense didn't need to do anything, but they really didn't do that much. And then the Texans game, you're a little off kilter. If you're playing a defense this bad, Ryan Nielsen, man, this
it's bad.
It's so bad. So let's get into the Jaguars of it all. First of all, lastly, Alex Anzalone could be out 6 to 8 weeks with a broken forearm, which could put him back for the playoffs. So that's disappointing for the Lions, but they could get him back for the playoffs. So man, they've had a lot of injuries. Zadarius Smith also played in this game and apparently looked pretty good.
He was pretty solid. He led the team with 4 pressures and had a half a sack. It was solid for a first performance, I would say. He definitely brings something to the lineup, but they're just they're still going to be a work in progress up front. That's just how they're going to be the rest of the year.
The Colton Pouncey, who does a great job at The Athletic and has a podcast you guys should check out. He's said this thing a couple times and he keeps repeating it, which I think is true. When you have safeties that hit like linebackers and cover like cornerbacks and and catch the ball like wide receivers, it's like you're going to go far. This safety tandem is absolutely electric. Brian Branch is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Okay, let's get to the Jaguars. I was really bothered, excuse me for a second to rant, Patra, by the reports that had been building for weeks, frankly, that Peterson could get let go after this game. And if you just watch around and you listen to what reporters are saying and different little whispers and stuff, I just was seeing it pick up. And then it was really picking up last week that this could be his last week. And then our national reporter, Ian Rapport, who's doing a good job reporting this, is no shame, no slight to Ian, but basically reports on Saturday night that this could be Peterson's last game, which if you really dig down deep into it, it's like Doug Peterson knows going into this game, he's going to get fired after this game. And that does bother me. And people could say, well, he's a millionaire and he's doing a bad coach. And it's just like, yeah, but that's why bad organizations stay bad. It's like, you don't have to let all this happen. And if you're doing it, just do it. Don't tell everyone that you're going to fire the guy for weeks on end, because these little whispers don't get out there by accident. So the team went into this game kind of knowing their coach was going to get fired. This is what I believe. He hasn't gotten fired yet. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I suspect he's going to get fired. I'm going to continue ranting here. And, like, this is the same organization that also thought it was smart to hire Urban Meyer. You know, this is the same organization that I like. They have made so many mistakes organizationally over the years that they thought it was a good idea to keep Trent Baalke, for instance. We'll see if Trent Baalke keeps his job.
The reports are they might still keep him.
There's a report from
today.
Pro Football Talk that it could be a Trent Baalke that stays there with Bill Belichick. Baalke was there with Urban Meyer. You just can't kill this guy. And
the guy who picked Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson. Like, come on. Like right there. Look at the trajectory of these two teams that just played on the field. They were both 1 and 2 in the draft. One's dominating and the other just floundering now. Went the other way.
There was actually an article in The Athletic before the start of the 2023 season comparing these two organizations as two teams that have rebuilt and like which organization is in a better spot.
Right.
Because the Jaguars are coming off that strong end to their season with Trevor Lawrence. And now like the whole way it went down just to me shows why bad organizations stay bad. And yes, I'm trying to think of like the other way that they've blown things lately, and it's just not even worth it. But anything you want to say about the Doug Peterson era? Because I think it's over.
It is certainly over. I mean, the defense is ridiculously disappointing at this. I mean, they switched to coordinators this year. All the talk off season was how they're going to be more physical, and they just got blown up. Like this, there's three games started with teams that scored touchdowns on their first 5 possessions. 2 of them were the Jags that gave that up. The Bills in week 3, and then today. And then it's the Cowboys against the Saints. The Saints put it on the Cowboys. So those were the 3 games, and 2 of them came against the Jags D. Like it's and then Mac Jones. I mean, what is there to say? He couldn't keep the ball in bounds to save his life. Like he had a couple deep shots that he could have connected on, and they were 5 feet out of bounds.
Okay, let's listen to Peterson after the game, asked if he's coached his last game.
You know what? I can't control that, and you know. Listen, I've been around this league a long time, and you know if it's going to happen, it's going to happen, obviously. But at the same time, I still have a job to do, and that's to you know get ready for a good division opponent here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, they have a bye, and don't expect it'll be him coaching afterwards. It'll probably be Mike McCoy. Great career with Philadelphia, getting a Super Bowl championship. Probably the last time we'll see him as a head coach. Good guy. We'll see if he, decides to coach again in the NFL. Let's go to a Jets team, which already changed their coaches, but trying to keep their season alive against the Colts.
3rd and goal for Indianapolis. They are 5 for 14 today on 3rd down. This is big. Richardson out of the gun. He's going to take it off left edge. He's at the 5, cuts into the end zone. Bullies his way into the end zone. Touchdown, Anthony Richardson. His 2nd rushing touchdown today. And the Colts, with the score right there, lead 28-27 with 46 seconds to go.
That would be the final score. That was Matt Taylor and Rick Venturi, WFNI. Yes, Anthony Richardson needed 2 touchdown drives in the 4th quarter to come from behind and get a victory to keep his team in the wild card mix. And you know what? He did it. Maybe the best day of his career. And yes, it helps that the man can truck stick a defender on the goal line. Had a touchdown earlier in the game that was very impressive to get the Colts out to a 10-0 lead. The Jets look dead in the water for most of the first half. Didn't have a first down until 2 minutes to go, but they actually come back and lead this game 24-16 before the Colts storm back. Kind of a fun game, KP. I mean, you changed assignments. You wanted this game, and you got a good one.
I did. Yeah, it was started out. The Colts started out strong, 13-0, and Anthony Richardson made some. His second pass was one of the worst short screens you'll ever see, and it was kind of like, oh gosh, are we back to this? And then by the 3rd drive, he settled in and he made some very, very nice throws, like darts over the middle. I think he was like 66% completion percentage, which for him is awesome compared to what his 44% coming into the day. So he had career 272 yards, two touchdown passes, 2 runs, and he's such a threat in the red zone, dude. Like that's where he makes a difference. Like he's Josh Allen but bigger. Like he's just so physical. Like you cannot stop that run that you showed. You cannot stop that. I don't care who you are. You're not standing him up. So he played with a lot more calmness than we've seen. Like before he went to the bench. Like I really wondered early when he made a couple missed throws whether he was going to just keep getting scattershot, and he really calmed down. I think that's the part of the game that they wanted him to work on, the mental part, and he really did settle down. Now their offense went in the tank a little bit. They couldn't run the ball, but when they needed it, he made the throws. He made a few darts over the middle. Like when he throws his fastball, it's great. It's awesome. Like over the middle to Josh Downs is perfect. I would throw that pass like 20 times a game for like that 15-yarder. It's great.
And occasionally he can throw with a little bit of touch. He almost overshot Downs, who's just one of the best hands catchers in the league, who made a really great over-the-shoulder catch. He ends up with 5 for 84 and a touchdown on 5 targets. So Josh Downs fantasy owners like me out there, maybe there is life here with Anthony Richardson. He had gotten most of his yards with Joe Flacco. And then the whole shot that Pierce threw to Pierce, that Richardson threw to Pierce on the game-winning drive was just a thing of beauty over Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner's really been struggling, whether it's in coverage, giving up some plays here to Downs and to Pierce. Not great tackling, but that was just a beautiful throw. Richardson finishes 9 of 12 on throws over 10 yards. According to Next Gen Stats, that's the 5th highest percentage on throws over 10 yards of any quarterback all year, with at least 10 throws in the game. So, it couldn't have gone better. This was a good feeling victory for them.
He'll miss some short stuffs, but when he has his fastball is that 15-yard dart. Like, just let it rip, and he can do it.
Yep, and
this is the type of game we wanted to see when the beginning of the year started. This is the game we thought. Use his legs. He had 10 rushes for like 30, 40 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then he mixed in some good intermediate throws.
Shane Steichen after the game looked so happy, so relieved. It just was just like exactly what they wanted. Now they have the Lions next week, and they have a tough game in Denver after their bye in about 3 weeks. So this team still has a pretty tough road to the playoffs at 5-6. So they do have a bunch of games where they'll be favored. Patriots, Giants, Titans, and Jaguars. So they could get to 8-9 wins, something like that. But I just think this game, the way they won it and the point of the season it was at, is going to calm everything down. Really important for them. And so happy for them. And A.D. Mitchell is starting to make plays the last couple of weeks too, which is great. Let's flip it to the Jets side. There was like a Bronx cheer in MetLife when they finally got their first down with 1:45 left. And then they got it going, Patra, but ultimately they're 1-5 since they made the coaching change from Robert Saleh. And one of the reasons I think they lost this game is Ulbrich and his game management situations, not deciding to go for it on a 4th and 2, not going for a 2-point conversion, 2 decisions which Aaron Rodgers not so subtly criticized at the podium. I'm sure that's going to get a lot of run in New York.
Yeah, the 4th and 2 late, like to kick the field goal to go up 5, like that's proven to be one of the worst decisions you can make. Just let it be 3 or just go for it and try to put the game away like the Bills did. But he also went for it at 4th down earlier. So I don't like the thing coaches that I hate with some coaches. It's pick a strategy and stick with it. Be aggressive or don't be aggressive. The wishy-washiness gets you burned every single time. So they couldn't get a 1st down to save their lives. I was literally found myself yelling at the TV, like, what are you doing? Because it was an amalgam of poorly blocked runs, awful passes from Rodgers. He was like so scattershot earlier, like behind Garrett Wilson by like 4 feet. Like
he's cooked, man.
Wild. It was wild. And then they calmed down, and Breece Hall got them back in the game basically at the end of the half with a great run, a catch and run. But Rodgers, he just doesn't have it. His ADOT had to be so low. I didn't look it up, but he had 29 pass attempts. 4 of them were over 10 yards. 4 of them were over 10 air yards.
4
of 29 pass attempts. That's ridiculously bad.
Yeah, it was a 4.2 average yards per throw. And yeah, you can see the difference between him and Richardson. Richardson averaged 9 per throw, which for him is actually quite low. So that means he's getting under control. But yeah, Rodgers is cooked. You can see the plays mentally and you can see the positive plays. But when athletes age poorly, it's that, yeah, you can make the plays sometime, but you can't make them consistently. And he's playing without a lot of confidence. He wants to clear his head during their bye. They're at 3-8. I mean, their season has been over, but it's extra over now at
34 straight games without a 300-yard passing day in 2023 and 4, or 22 and 4. That's a long time in this day and age to go without a 300-yard passing game.
If they had a developmental quarterback, this would be the time that they would go to it, but they don't. So you do wonder if these are the final days of Aaron Rodgers in the NFL. We can talk about that later in the year, but first we got to talk about Sunday Night Football. Thank you, Kevin Patra, coming
Appreciate
at
it,
you,
guys.
straight from Detroit. Enjoy, all your newfound success. The Tigers have a fun season. The Lions are a juggernaut. Even the Pistons are winning some games.
We're getting close.
They look like a good young team. All right, let's go to SoFi Stadium across the street.
Burrow taps his helmet, takes the snap. They bring an extra body to rush. He throws to the end zone. It's in the air, and it is incomplete. Chargers win. The Chargers win. 34-27. Derwin knocks it down.
That was our friend Matt Money Smith on KYSR. Chargers hold on for a wild 34-27 victory in one of the longest games of the season that ended in regulation. That thing took 3 hours and 40 minutes. In one of the craziest games that we've seen all season, Chargers blow a 21-point lead in the matter of minutes in the second half. They're chargering the hell out of this. But you know it was stronger, Nick Shook, as we finish off this fun Week 11 recap. The 2024 Bengals, we need a nickname for them because here's what they do each and every week. Their offense plays fantastic. Joe Burrow has MVP quality stats, but the rest of the team comes up short. And in the end, it's often the Bengals offense that has a chance to put the game away. And Joe Burrow and his guys can't get it done either. With a little help from Evan McPherson, the Chargers escape. They are 7-3, and the Bengals are buried.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's the nickname right there, the buried Bengals, because they can't dig themselves out of the hole they've put themselves in. I mean, Joe Burrow tries as hard as possible to dig them out almost every week. You know, there was a period in this game when they were still down 21 points, and he got hit on a third down where he got blasted from like 2 different directions, and he hits the ground and lays there for a second, was slow to get up. And I wondered, is that the hit that sapped the last desire, burning desire to win out of Joe Burrow? Is this the moment where he just gives into the fact that the team around him and the way this season's going, you just can't overcome it? And then he comes out and throws 3 touchdown passes, and they tie the game, and they get in field goal range twice to potentially take the lead, and then his kicker lets him down, and he tries all the way to the end, and they lose another one.
Yeah, let's start with that comeback. So it's 27-6. Early in the third quarter, after a short field goal drive by the Chargers, puts it at that level. At that point in the game, Justin Herbert's absolutely dealing. He's getting protected very well. Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense are a little bit of a mess. They have 6 total points in their first 6 drives. They have 3 straight 3-and-outs. So the Bengals offense not covering themselves in glory. Chargers defense looks so sound. And then the Bengals start getting stops, and the Chargers offense really runs dry. And the Bengals have a drive where they get down close to the goal line. They're down 21 points at the time, and they spend what felt like about 15 plays inside the 10-yard line, and they keep coming up short, and they go backwards, and then they go forwards, and then there's a penalty on the Chargers, so you keep getting more and more chances. And finally, it's 4th and goal. The game, they certainly have no chance to win it if they don't get this. And for some reason, Jesse Minter and the Chargers single up Jamar Chase on the outside with Cam Hart, their rookie, who went out of the game with an injury after this. And they get a touchdown in single coverage on a 0 blitz. It's 27-13. At that point, there are 5 minutes left in the third quarter. roughly 7 minutes of game time later and 45 minutes of actual time later, the score is tied. the Bengals get a stop. They hit a 4th and down to T. Higgins, who just runs straight through double coverage for a 42-yarder on 4th down. Then Herbert fumbles the ball, and they get it right back, setting up this Jamar Chase touchdown. Let's take a listen.
The Bengals will go empty on 2nd down and 10 at the 17-yard line of Los Angeles. Burrow catches the shotgun snap against the 4-man rush. He's backpedaling all the way to the 30. Throws before getting hit into the end zone. It is caught by Jamar Chase for the touchdown. And the Bengals are a PAT away from erasing a 21-point deficit.
And this game, Nick, reminded us, and of course that's our friends Dan Horde and Dave Lapham on WCKY. It just reminds us how good they are when they have T. Higgins and Chase. Chase finishes 7 for 75 and 2 touchdowns, although a costly kind of drop late in the game. T. Higgins, a 9 for 148 and a touchdown. He jumped so high on one attempt for one of those touchdowns. He looks so athletic in this game. Like, they are a different team with those two dudes. But I bring it to that point just to point out that, like, that comeback was so fast and so big. There hasn't been a team that won coming back from 21 down in over a year. Like, it's hard to do that. Mm-hmm. And we still had all this time left in the game. There was like a whole other game that was played after that point. It was almost like they came back too fast. I don't even know how that makes sense, because they got the ball 3 more times after that, but somehow they didn't score after that because of the McPherson misses and a couple good plays by the Chargers defense.
Well, I mean, if you operate with the idea that there's finite energy in a football team, it's almost as if they ran out of gas, but they didn't. Like, they still got in scoring range, but they had to storm back from such a deficit that it did expend a lot of energy. But it also illustrates, again, what we've known about these Bengals all year, because this essentially to me was the Washington game. This was both Baltimore games. Like, we've seen this from the Bengals.
Kansas City
They've been able
game
to
a little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. They've been able to explode. In fact, there was a 3rd down conversion that they didn't get where Chase jumped up for the ball and the DB got there at the perfect time. And it was almost like the Cam Taylor-Britt, that type of play that set up the field goal for the Chiefs in that loss. And it just kind of tells the story of the whole season for them, which is that Burrow is out there slinging it. He's slinging it to Chase. He's slinging it to Higgins. They're moving the ball. They're putting points up in bunches. It's coming quickly. But they just lack that extra little thing to get them over the hump in so many of these close losses. And what we retreated to was this weird, like, hot potato of possession between these two teams in the fourth quarter. It's like, you go win the game. No, I don't want to. You go win the game. No, you go win the game. And neither of them decided to win the game until J.K. Dobbins got in the end zone.
Right. There were great defensive plays in that breakup you mentioned on Chase. Yeah. There were a handful of plays that it seemed like they were going to make the Bengals at the end of that game. And it was Christian Fulton who had a big play. It was Tarheeb Still, the rookie fifth-round pick who made the play I think you're talking about. And on one of them, yeah, you give the ball back to Herbert with under 2 minutes to go in great field goal position at the 41-yard line after the McPherson miss. And they just go 3 and out, like 3 straight incompletions, including a pretty bad miss that Herbert had in there to McConkey. And you're thinking, well, of course the Bengals are going to get it here. And they don't. And that's why I don't know what to say. Like Nick Wesseling, I'm in this text thread with the 2 Wesseling brothers that I'm closest with, Nick and Phil. And they're making fun of me because I keep pointing out that this season is just like a smidge overrated for Burrow. And I just said, well, based on this season, because this was right when they tied the game, I texted back, he'll be sensational, but they'll blow it in the end. And that is why it's like a smidge underrated, because I keep seeing Bengals just fans say he'd be the MVP if he was getting help. And I'm like, they've had the ball with a chance to win on offense, and Joe Burrow and their offense to go make the plays to win it 5 times. And they've won no times.
The question, though, because
I know it's the rest of the team that's partly putting him in there. I'm just saying this team has loserish vibes.
Yes.
It's combined. Like, even the way this game started, the offense somewhat put the team in position by playing so bad. They just keep finding ways to lose. Burrow might make my all-pro team in the end. Like, I don't know, but you can't say, like, he would have an MVP season. He's been part of that just because they haven't been able to close on offense. Sorry for ranting.
Yeah, no, but I think the good outweighs the bad, and I think about some of those possessions that didn't produce points in the fourth quarter, like some of even the pass breakup that I was just talking about. He puts it on this guy. He put it on his guy a few times. I think he missed Yoshivas once deep. Like other than that, I can't really think about a ton of mistakes. Somebody tweeted.
He had the interception that was overturned by penalty.
That one, that's what it was. Somebody tweeted.
But other than that, he was just about perfect.
Exactly, and that's who he is. It's just that like the loserish mentality is all around him, and I'm not trying to completely defend him, but it feels like he's the only one that's like pushing them forward. It's him and Jamar's riding along with him, and T. Higgins, when he's healthy, has been there. And it's just like so painful to watch as a football person to like sit back and see this guy's playing tremendously for the most part. He has to overcome so much, and yet they fall short again. So he'd be on my All-Pro team for sure. Absolutely. Like, no doubt. Slam dunk. But they're
that's top 2, though. So at this point, he wouldn't be because, I would have Lamar and Josh Allen definitely ahead of him. But he's been sensational. Don't get it twisted. I don't want to get too distracted on, like, picking nits there. I do want to give some credit to Herbert and the Chargers as a whole because ultimately they were charging, but it didn't end as if Brandon Staley was the coach in the end somehow. Maybe that is the difference. And ultimately, you do build a 21-point lead because of the reasons that they are better than the Bengals on balance this year. They protect their quarterback well. The Bengals offensive line did not play well at all. Joe Burrow made so many plays escaping pressure. And so Herbert was dealing in part because he was protected well. And then at the very end, even though they weren't getting much done in the second half offensively, at the end, it was the combination of 2 dots by Herbert on that final drive and then the setup to J.K. Dobbins. Let's listen. I bet Matt Money Smith had a fun call for this one. I have not heard it yet. Let's listen to Dobbins take the lead with 18 seconds left.
It's Dobbins and Matlock. Hand off to Dobbins. And there goes Dobbins on his horse to the 20, to the 15, to the 10, into the end zone. Touchdown, Chargers. 29 yards. J.K. Dobbins with 18 seconds left.
Oh, great call there by Matt Money Smith. And yeah, that was a part of the game you thought, maybe go down, Gus Edwards, go down. But you can't blame him flipping into the end zone, 56 yards on the ground for him. They were quiet running the ball all day. McConkey ends up with 123. He's really turning into that dude. But Dobbins and the run game come through. And what a night at SoFi Stadium, a late night.
Yeah, and I'm sure the traffic there is insane, but rightfully so. 2 things. Ladd McConkey, tip of the cap to you, sir, for overcoming a drop on a previous drive when you were wide open along the sideline to make some huge catches on that final drive. He was a big part of that. He's one of my favorite receivers in this rookie class to watch. Has been since the combine. And number 2, shout out to Matt Money Smith because you can hear a little bit of trepidation in his voice as he's calling those plays. He's been through the ringer tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Team's on a roll. Team blows the lead. He can feel the walls caving in. Even on that last throw by Burrow, it's very calm, very like it throws it deep, and it's touchdown. Then he explodes for excitement. Like he went through it all tonight. Congratulations to him and the Chargers.
Yes, and you're right about the traffic. If you're watching on YouTube, you might notice I'm home now. That's because I got out of there as soon as I could. Because not only is this Chargers game happening, and I would have got stuck for an hour and a half after that got out, but there's a Sabrina Carpenter concert right next door, and my God, it was insane. It was traffic, palooza. When you bring in Sabrina Carpenter, and then you got the Clippers over at Intuit, 1 block away that way. You got Carpenter on the other side. I squeezed through there like Joe Burrow, fading that rush, stepping up in the pocket.
Third down, stepping up, sliding for a big gain. Yeah,
I'm feeling much
triple
better.
Whammy.
Yes, to be at home now, and big win for the Chargers because, they have the Ravens next week on Monday Night Football. A lot of Los Angeles during these night games coming up in the final stretch of the season. They also have at Kansas City in a couple weeks. So that was a big one to pocket just to make sure they feel like this is a different Chargers team, different season. And yeah, it would have been a more fun season, I think, if the Bengals were a little closer to in the mix, but I'm still not totally writing them off at 4-7. You can't quit this team. One of the best 4-7 teams we have ever seen. One of the best week 11s we've ever seen. Nick Shook, appreciate you, man.
No, appreciate you as well. And I'm pulling for you, Bengals fans. I'm sorry that you've been through all this, but there are brighter days ahead, hopefully. We'll see.
Okay. We will be back Monday Night Football. Nick Shook, we're going to have to cook up some fun segments or something a little extra if this Texans-Cowboys game doesn't deliver. For Nick Shook and Eric Roberts, Patrick Claybon, Chris giving us a lot of help. Yeah, when J.K. Dobbins is showing NFL Daily guests get it done in the end, you know football is back. See you Monday night.